Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be going over how to make a data analyst portfolio completely from scratch and completely for free using a tool called Card. One question that I often hear on LinkedIn is how can I create a portfolio that'll actually get me a job in data? To answer this question, I've put together a sample portfolio that we're going to use as an example of how you can stand out in the job hunt. If you don't know me, I come from a non-technical background. I didn't go to school for analytics. I didn't have any experience in analytics prior to getting into the field. And a portfolio absolutely helped me stand out and was part of the reason why I got hired. So part of this tutorial is going to be best practices for what make a great portfolio. And once you're done building it, I'll show you how you can best implement the portfolio so that it actually gets viewed. Before we jump into the tutorial, I'm gonna do a walkthrough of the portfolio that I put together. I'll have a table of contents in the description below, and let's go ahead and start by going through the portfolio in its completed form. So here we have the portfolio put together in Card in its published state. Just our info section. Here at the top, I have my photo, my name, the position that I'm going for, or rather my specialty. So notice I put BI developer. I think it's helpful when you differentiate yourself a bit by stating what your specialty is, whether that's a Python developer or a BI developer like I put here. Underneath that, I have icons here that operate as navigation to my other socials like LinkedIn, Tableau Public, and GitHub, where I have the rest of my projects, as well as my YouTube channel, and this icon here, which will prompt an email message to my personal email. Going below those icons, I have a view resume button. So when this is selected, it takes them to a resume that I put together in my Google Drive, and I'll show you how to link that a little bit later in the video. But I think it's a nice touch when someone can view your resume right away and download it directly from your portfolio. It's especially helpful if they're finding your portfolio from a website like LinkedIn and maybe they haven't already seen your resume. So that's a nice way to get it into their hands. Some different features you'll see throughout here are these divider lines separating sections and these little arrows which act as guideposts but also as scroll points to the next section. I have an About Me here, and for your About Me, I recommend making it less about your entire history and more as a sales pitch. I look at this from a marketing perspective, and if someone was landing on my website for the first time, how can I communicate to them in as little words as possible how I'm going to give them the solution they're looking for? Because in the job hunt, you really are selling yourself, so you want to sell yourself as a solution. We're going to go to the next section, which is the skills section. I have a little image here that just shows the emblem for each of the skills that I know, as well as those skills listed below here. Underneath that, I just have a little soft skill overview section, data visualization, business analytics, team management, report development, and the number of years that I've spent building those skills. Moving on to the next section, we have what makes up most of this page, the meat, if you will, and that's the featured projects section. So I recommend in general having about 3 to 5 projects listed in your portfolio. You might have more projects in your Tableau Public or Power BI or in your GitHub, whatever. But in our portfolio page here, we're just showing our best and brightest or just the projects that we want people viewing the page to see. So here, notice how I have each of these laid out. I have 5 projects here showcasing a range of skills, and each one is set up the same. I have the tool used, so in this case, SQL and Power BI, the name of the project, and a 1-sentence description. Next to that is an image or a thumbnail of the project, and this More button takes them to a separate page that's actually hidden within our landing page here to view more about the project. We're going to spend some time going over that once we get to that section, but that's really what makes this page pop. We have multiple projects, each one laid out in a similar formatting, and each one with its own project write-up page to explain more of what went into making that project. And I'll go over my 3-step process for putting together a project write-up once we get to that section later in the video. If we move on to the next section here, we have professional certification. So you'll notice I have a couple here, one for Tableau, one for Power BI. I don't recommend putting every online certification you've ever earned into your portfolio. Rather, I would just put proprietary exam-based ones. So in this case, I have the Tableau Desktop Specialist certification. That one is issued by Tableau. It's a paid exam. The PL300 certification is the same thing. It's issued by Microsoft. It's a paid exam. These ones are typically more recognized by employers than your standard online certification, which is great to put on your LinkedIn, but for your resume or your portfolio, I recommend only putting these types of certifications here. That's pretty much the end. Underneath that, I just have a little thank you and then a contact me form. This is nice because they can fill out their name, email, and a message if they want to get in touch. Just another way for potential employers to get in touch with you. Again, if they're viewing your portfolio outside of your resume, this is an easy way for them to get in touch with you. We're just creating as many opportunities as we can to get them in touch with us and to make it easy for them to get in touch with us. Okay, so now that we've gone through the portfolio, let's look at how to put it together. First thing we're going to do is we're going to navigate to Card and we're going to choose a starting point. Now, Card is a landing page style portfolio website. So it's not going to be a fully built out website like you might see in Wix or Squarespace or something like that. So it's just going to be a single page. But the type of page that I showed you is what's called a sectioned page. So if we navigate to this tab here, these are essentially pages within pages. And the way that works is there's actually a hidden section in the page that you're navigating to when you click the button that is connected to it. More on that in a bit. We have a number of templates here. And again, if you wanted to go with one of these other types, you absolutely can. For us today, we're going to use this one right here. This is completely free. You'll notice they have pro level templates as part of their paid plan. But the template that we're going to use today is free. So we're going to select this here. And you could already see that this is a pretty similar layout to the one that I had put together. Obviously, mine has a little bit more. It's formatted differently, but this is a really good base to start off with. And you see here, I want to draw your attention to this control point here. This is what separates this hidden section. So look at this as your project write-up page, and it has a few for us here, and they're hidden at the bottom. So when you click this more button, you'll see that this button here has a URL, and this URL has #1. This section break here is also #1. So when you click this button, it's going to bring you down to this section. So that's how the section break controls work, and that's what really makes this page a nice portfolio style page for us. So let's start off with just our little profile section at the top. Going to start by throwing in my image, and we're going to change the appearance, go into this little paintbrush here from rectangle to circle. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm not going to spend too much time on formatting now. I'll do most of that at the end. Right now, we're just going to get everything looking generally as we want, and then at the end, I'll just do a fast forward of me formatting the rest of the page. Throw in my name here. And then here we have our subtitle. This is where we're going to put what we are. Data analyst, BI developer. We're going to increase the weight a little bit. So you'll notice in the appearance section, there's a lot of different options for what you can do. We'll cover a lot of ground today on what we go over, but there's tons you can do. And then we'll increase the size a little bit. Okay, cool. And next thing is we're going to add a new element. We're going to add the button. So the button is going to be the View Resume button. That takes them to our Google Drive resume. So I'm going to say View Resume, and then navigate to my Google Drive where I have my resume stored. Click Share, copy link, and throw that in the URL section here. Again, we're not going to worry about formatting now, but I am going to expand the width a little bit, and we are giving it a solid style as opposed to the outline style. So all I'm going to do for now is make it so that we can see it. It's good enough for now. And I will go ahead and format this to the colors that I'm using just so we can see it. So I have the yellow button and the black text. That's just sort of the branding that I like to go with. And then we're going to increase the weight of the text here. And we'll adjust the rest a little bit later. Now we're going to throw in our icon. And this is going to be the scroll point that takes us down to the next section. Arrow down, alignment center. This is also going to have a solid style. All right, so we have our icon formatted. And then for the URL, this is where the scroll point's going to go. So the way we set this up is we add a new element. It's going to be our control action here. And we're going to set it to scroll point so that when they click this, it just scrolls to the next section. And we'll call this section About Me. Okay, now we're gonna set up our About Me section. We're just gonna duplicate, make a copy of this element, drag that down, we'll center it, change the text to About Me, and then we're gonna add our divider. We'll change the color on this so that we can see it. And this is gonna be our little tiny divider. So the width is gonna be much smaller. It's also gonna be thicker, and we're gonna center the alignment. We're also gonna increase the size on this. Now for the text in our About Me section, we'll add a text box here. And then I'm just gonna copy and paste what I already have written to save some time. And definitely gonna reduce the size on that and set the alignment to left. And then we're gonna add this longer divider here, and we're going to make a copy of our icon, our scroll button, and we're also going to duplicate this scroll point control to go underneath the icon, set the name to skills, which that reminds me, in our first icon, we never set the hashtag to About Me. That'll ensure that it actually scrolls to the next section. So we're gonna do the same thing here, hashtag skills. Make a duplicate of this header, throw it in here, skills, make a duplicate of our little line here. And now this is where our little skills image is gonna go. So the way I put this together was actually in a tool called Canva. So in Canva, I just found the different tool icons online. I just did a Google search, took a screenshot of those. You can upload those files into Canva and just throw them together in this banner style image template. And once you have that put together, you can just share and download it. And I do want to mention that to make the background transparent, you do have to be on Canva's Pro plan, but I don't think it's totally necessary. If you can see the background, that's fine. To me, the main idea is just getting some images in there to break it up a little bit and make the portfolio look nice. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add our skills image. We're gonna take our image, we're gonna throw it in here, drag it out, and we're just gonna set the width so that it stretches across. There we go. And we're gonna add our subtitle that has our list of skills. We could just duplicate this, throw it here. I'm gonna copy and paste what I already have, reduce the size a bit, and then I'm going to center it. And then to get this bullet pointed soft skill section, we're gonna use what's called a container. And within that container, first we're gonna set the type from default to columns. So we have two different columns, and we're gonna throw a list into each of those. So we have two lists side by side. I'm gonna copy and paste what I already have. And to get the icons as stars, like we have them, we're gonna go to the bullets section under appearance. And right now it's a dot. We're gonna change it to star. And we're gonna do that for both of these. I'm not gonna worry about formatting now because I'll be changing that later altogether. But we're gonna make a copy of our divider here. Throw that underneath. Add another scroll point icon. And then add the actual scroll point. Set the URL. We're gonna name our scroll point projects. That's the next section we're doing, and set this URL to projects. Okay, so now we have our featured project section, the star of the show. Gonna duplicate the title. I like to call it featured projects, just to indicate that it's not all of our projects, but just the ones we want to feature. I'm going to duplicate my divider here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together one of these and then I'll fast forward through the rest. The way this is put together, this is also sitting inside of a container. We just have a few text fields, our button, and then an image field here. We'll throw in our title, we'll throw in our description, we'll throw in our image, stretch that out. So there we go. Now we have one of these put together. I'll put together the project walkthrough piece of it in a bit, but first I'm going to finish putting the rest of these sections together. All right, so I have my 5 projects laid out here on the home page. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put together a project write-up for one of these. So I'm going to use the Excel project as an example because I think it'll be the most straightforward. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to our scroll point and we'll just use this first one here, or this section break rather, and we'll name it Excel, and we'll change the More button to have the URL of Excel. Doesn't really matter what order these are in as long as the section break header matches what's in the button. That's where it's going to take it. So when we go down to that section, which again is already laid out for us thanks to the template, we have the back button here, which is just set to #home. That just automatically takes you to the home page. We have our title. I'm going to enter mine. By the way, I haven't mentioned this yet, but you'll notice that you can bold text by using Markdown. Little lesson in Markdown right underneath the text box to give you a little guide, but the double asterisks are what is going to bold your text. So that helps give us a little bit of effect here. And then for our image, we'll throw in that Excel image, the image of the dashboard. And let's head on over to the completed portfolio for a second. So when we navigate there, here's how I have it laid out. I have the name of the project, the image, and then I have just a brief summary of what the project is. So I mentioned that this came from an ebook sale analysis that I put together. And the 3 steps that I use to put together any project write-up are the questions that we're trying to answer, the steps we took to fulfill that analysis, and the key takeaways. So you can see that laid out here. In the first section, here are the questions I was interested in answering. What was the net profit? Which month had the highest sales? After that, I go through the following steps that I took to create my analysis. I talk about how I pulled the data, I created the charts, I utilized pivot tables, and then I mentioned the key takeaways from the data. Sales have steadily increased. I could see I made a little typo here by putting a dash next to my 2, but I mentioned the running price sales due to holidays and whatnot. And at the end here, I mentioned that I put together a little video in Loom. This is a pro feature for cards, so if you want to set that up, you're more than welcome to. But I put this together with a tool called Loom, which is just a screen recording tool. So in Loom, that's actually how I'm recording this screen sharing right now. It just allows you for free to record your screen and have a nice little video that you can then embed into the page. It looks like this, just a little walkthrough of me using the tool. Not a big deal if you don't have that. It's not going to make or break the page, but it is a nice feature. And then at the bottom of that is just the thanks and contact me. That's present for all the pages. I'll show how to set that up in a little bit here. But this is what we're going to set up. So if we go back to our actual page here, we have our thumbnail and then we have our text. I'm just going to copy and paste what I've already written. And for this example, we're not going to worry about the embedding since I just want to go over what can be done for free. But if you wanted to, you would just add a new element, which is the embed code, and you would grab the code from your recorded video in Loom. And that's how you put together the project write-up aspect of the portfolio. Not going to go through every single one because that would take a while, but that's the general idea for how you want to put these together. Just going over a few other examples. If you want to maybe include screenshots of some of your code or other steps you took. For this project, I took a very similar approach, but I go into a bit more detail on the SQL script. I link that in GitHub. hub. I show my model built in Power BI, the various tabs that I put together, the slicers, some of the DAX formulas, this calendar created table. So the sky's the limit there. It definitely helps to throw in some images just to break up the text, especially if there's a lot of it, but it's totally up to you how much detail you want to add. But as a general rule of thumb, I typically recommend that brevity is best, and whatever you do add, just make sure it's helpful, it's tasteful, and that you're not going into too much detail. Okay, so if we go back up to our featured projects section, we're going to now add our professional certification section. So we'll start that by duplicating our icon here, dragging that down below the divider. We'll add a control point with the type scroll point and rename it certifications. And we'll give that same name to the icon as we did all the others. We'll duplicate our title here, and then we're going to add our tiny divider. And so the way I have this section set up is we're utilizing containers again. So we'll throw in a container, throw in two actually, set the type to columns. We'll have one column set to 25% width and the other set to 75. Now we're gonna throw in our elements. So on the left side, we have an image. Gonna add my Tableau certification. I'll do the same here for my Power BI certification. And then we're just adding a text box into the other element. I'm gonna copy and paste my text. And I'm going to set the alignment on this to left. I'm just going to duplicate that, throw it in there, copy and paste the text I have, add my divider, close out this section, and duplicate my icon here. So we're getting close to the end. So the control we're going to put, we'll just say end, change the URL. And so our footer control is what is going to make whatever is underneath this line appear on all pages like we saw before. So when we navigate to the more section here, we still have our footer present there. What I did just realize is I put the control for the end a little too high up. So we're just going to move that down there. Now we're going to put together our thanks section. So I'm going to duplicate this, drag it down, and it's just gonna say thanks. We'll add a text box because I want the same formatting. I'm gonna duplicate this text box, drag it down here, and I'm just gonna copy and paste my text, align it to the left, and we're gonna reduce the size just a little bit so that it's all on one line. But there's our text. We have our divider already there. The last thing we're gonna add is a contact me. So we'll duplicate that, say contact me, and we're gonna add a form element. The fields already in there are pretty good to start with, so we're not gonna change those. We are gonna change the width so that it stretches all the way across. We're gonna add some corner rounding to the fields, change that to 2. So our socials, we're gonna add an element here. It's gonna be the icon element. And here's where we can add our different socials with their appropriate URLs. So for this one, LinkedIn, and then we'll take our LinkedIn URL and throw it right into the URL section. To add another icon, we can close this one by clicking it and just click add. It's gonna throw it in right there. And I'm gonna go ahead and make the remaining 4 of these and just fast forward through this part here. For the last one, which is the email button, the URL, we're actually gonna set it to mail to, and then I'm throwing our email here. And that's what creates the email command when they click that button. We're gonna duplicate these icons and just throw them at the very bottom here. Last thing we're gonna add is just duplicate this header, throw that in there. And there we go. The portfolio is set up the way we want it. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk through the formatting for the page. So I'll go over a couple elements, then I'll fast forward through the rest. So one thing I want to show you is setting up this background here. So we have our background, and then we have our page, which is what all the elements are sitting in. So first thing for the background, we're going to set the style to color, and we're going to set the color to this silver color that I like. And if we click into the page, we could do the same thing here. Going to scroll down a bit to get to the color section. We're going to give it that color, but then we need to adjust some of the sizing of this page too. But then we need to adjust some other elements of this page as well. We're going to add some corner rounding. If I click into here, I can add something manually. Whoa, not 36, but 3. And we're going to add drop shadows as well. I'm going to throw in my drop shadow color and then adjust some of the elements here. The way I have mine set up, the angle is set to 68 degrees. The size is 0.625. The distance is 0.5. And then the last thing is adding the border color. Right now there is no border, so we're going to add this color to it. And once that's finished, you could see this nice lifted effect. Here's what it looks like live. And I just think it looks really modern, looks really cool. I like to implement the same kind of thing in my data visualizations. Is that lifted effect with the rounded corners looks really good in this context. And from there, we're just reformatting the rest of the text. So this, I'm gonna have this color of black that I like. I'm gonna change the font to DM Sans. So I'm just gonna fast forward through this section as I change the colors and the rest of the have our completed portfolio. I adjusted all the formatting in every section so that it's looking real good. Once you're ready to publish, you're going to click this little floppy disk button at the top right corner to publish this site. The title is going to be what you see in the header up here. So in the actual tab when it's pulled up. So I'm going to put Matt Mike, Data Analyst, since that's what I am. For the description, just a little description on the website. I'm going to put Matt Mike's data portfolio. And then to keep this free, we're going to publish to a card.co URL. If you have a custom domain that you bought and you want to use, more than welcome to do that by selecting publish to a custom domain. It'll just have you add the necessary information for that. But if you want to keep it free, publish to a card.co URL. It's as easy as just throwing in what you want. I'm going to put Matt Mike. It's going to look for it. It's not available because I already have that published. But if I add a 1, it's going to search for that, show that it's available, and then you can select publish. And once you're published, here you go. You have your fully built out portfolio ready to go, ready to start helping you stand out in the job hunt. The last thing we need to look at with the portfolio is how to effectively implement it so that it actually gets viewed. So once we have our portfolio, we're going to grab the URL. And we're going to go to our LinkedIn first. In our LinkedIn, we have a little info section up here with a link that you can add. Now, you're only able to add that link in your bio if you have creator mode turned on. That's under the resources section. So make sure you turn that on. Even if you're not a creator, it doesn't matter, but this gives you the ability to add a link to your bio. Mine right now is just my YouTube channel, but if I click this pencil to pull up the basic info, I could scroll down to the custom button section, edit custom button, choose a link, and then I would just throw in the link here and say something like view my portfolio, and then click save. And once you have that added, now anyone can click that link and view your portfolio. So if someone's coming onto your page for the first time, they see that, they want to check it out. The second place you're going to want to add it is your featured section. Right now I have a couple of other things, but if you want to add your portfolio, which I highly recommend, you would click this plus button, add a link, throw in that link there, click add, and then it pulls up a thumbnail that auto generates. That honestly already looks really good, but if you wanted to put together a custom thumbnail, you can definitely do that. And then for the title, I'd probably put something similar like view my portfolio. If you want a description, you can see all my projects. And then click save. And that way they have not just a link at the top, but a link midway through in the featured section with a little thumbnail to grab that attention. So now your LinkedIn, in my opinion, is optimized to show your portfolio to prospective employers. And the last place we want to add it is our resume. So if we go back to our resume, the one that we pulled up that's connected to our Google Drive. So if we go to our resume, we want to make sure that we have our portfolio linked at the top. So mine's just the URL. The template I used in this case just didn't have the option to do like a hyperlink, but I would recommend putting something like, again, portfolio or view my portfolio, and then have the URL hyperlinked in there. But if you just have the URL like I have here, too, it's not a big deal. It's not going to make or break your resume. They're still able to access it and you'll be fine. And then anywhere in your resume where you have projects listed, so this is especially helpful for those in the entry level position. So this is especially helpful for those in the entry level position. Anywhere in your resume where you're adding projects, you're also going to want to add your link in the portfolio to that project. So this resume isn't built out in that way, but if you had a project section where you were talking about one of your projects listed, I would put a link to that specific URL in the resume next to that project you have listed in the resume. So again, it's another way for them to view your portfolio. You want to do as much as you can to get eyes on it, allow people to see the hard work you put in and the visuals that you've put together to help demonstrate the data skills that you have. And there you have it, a fully built out portfolio that you can now use to stand out in the job hunt. And we did this totally for free. I'll have a link in the description below to check out Card. If you enjoyed the walkthrough, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Definitely helps out in a big way. Appreciate you spending some time with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.